Sanbonan Dumalang, hello, it is me, Simply Sfissa, and welcome back to my podcast. It has been a minute, like 2 years to be exact. Like, I know I released a podcast episode last year, but that one doesn't really count because, girl, it was just a mess of an episode, which I may or may not delete at some point. Who knows, by the time you listen to this episode, that episode might have been gone. So, but like, literally, it's officially 2 years since I was like actively working on the podcast, putting out episodes, and honestly, I didn't mean for it to be this long until I came back to making episodes. But yeah, it is what it is. But I am back. Thank you so much if you are joining as a returning listener, and also welcome to the new listeners. So, for those of you who don't know, I started a YouTube channel around about 2018, and then in 2020, that's when my podcast Simply Do the Work was born. My YouTube channel is called Simply Sfison. And the aim of this podcast was basically, during 2020, the pandemic, we were all locked at home, and also there was the rise of social work in the form of Black Lives Matter really started gaining prominence. And I just felt like, okay, I want to create a platform or a space where I can talk about, because I was reading a lot of books, like the work that I'm doing on myself and the work that I'm hopefully being able to effect change in the world. And that's why the podcast is called Simply Do the Work. It's like, let us come together and do the work, whether that is through stuff I've read or learned, or through also me sharing my personal stories. So today's episode is about Pride and Pride Month. Happy belated Pride Month. I'm literally recording this on the last day of Pride. If you remember, about 3 years ago, I had a podcast episode called "The Problem with Pride Month," right? And I actually re-listened to that episode to prepare for this one, and it's kind of sad to me how the issues I had raised 3 years ago are still valid even today. In fact, things might be much worse than that. I do recommend you guys check it out. It's not a long episode, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. But basically, in that episode, I highlighted some of the issues. I highlighted is the fact that Pride nowadays, it's seen as like a celebration and a party, which that is great. Like it's great that we have safe spaces as queer people. We can come together, be proud of who we are, be proud of the milestones we've achieved. But it seems like the protest part of it, not many people care about that. Um, Even the history of Pride is that it started as a protest, both in terms of why we celebrate Pride in June because of the Stonewall riots in 1969, and why in South Africa usually South African Pride Month in October because that's when the first Pride Month took place, and that Pride March was also an anti-apartheid movement. So I think that's a bit of history which until I did the research, so many years ago, I didn't necessarily know that. Oh, actually, queer activism in South Africa and anti-apartheid work went hand in hand. And shout out to Simon Nkoli, who's one of the leaders, who was spearheading that front. So yeah, that's just a bit of a summary. I don't want to be totally cynical and act as if Pride. There's no point in celebrating Pride. Like I do think at the time when I recorded that episode, I was a bit more on the pessimistic side of things, but rightfully so because today even like marginalized people, not just the queer community, but marginalized groups across the world, it's like rights are being stripped back left, right, and center. It's like instead of progress, things are going backwards, things are getting worse. So this isn't to be a Debbie Downer, but I think it's very important that we are aware of these issues and what's happening. But like, yeah, I don't want to harp on that too much, so do listen to that episode. I will link it in the description or the show notes for you guys to listen to. So for this episode, I wanted to talk to you guys about my reflections on Pride. I actually, like yesterday, I was at Durban Pride, and a couple months ago in October, I was at Joburg Pride. So first, I just want to share with you guys my journal entries. First, this one I wrote on the 31st of October 2023 after Joburg Pride. This was on a Tuesday. Basically what I wrote here was, Joburg Pride wasn't what I expected. Felt lonely in a crowd. Felt superficial. I don't even want to post the pictures. It wasn't all bad. The march was my favorite part, to be honest. Felt like I was part of something bigger than me, and that matters. And then here's the reflection I wrote yesterday with regards to Durban Pride. So I went to Durban Pride all by myself, which was a first. First Durban Pride, and first time going to a Pride event alone. I spent most of the day in my head, questioning why I still don't have any friends, why I ghost people and struggle to maintain intimate relationships. I decided not to open Grindr during the event so I can be present, but also I was feeling weirdly shameful. Also questioning my mental health and thinking about getting thrown out of Latinos and the assault and social that affected me. So, those of you may or may not know, I think I did discuss both incidents on the podcast. About I think 3 or 4 years ago, I went to a club in Pretoria, and at the time I was wearing makeup. I was looking good, feeling myself, and I got thrown out for what I presume is homophobia. And then also, I think this was 2 to 3 years ago. Um, Someone assaulted me because they thought I was trying to steal their man, and that's all I'll say about that. Right? So just giving you a bit of context, right? I'm now more afraid to be openly queer. I also want to combat that fear myself and push myself to be myself. And you know what? That's all I'm gonna read because the rest of the journal gets a little too personal. But yeah. So just reflecting on both Pride events, I will say it was quite different experiences. Joburg Pride is huge. Okay, it is probably like the biggest Pride event I've ever attended. And when I saw I felt lonely, that was specifically when because I'd met up with one of my friends there, right? And her sister. After they left, that's when the loneliness hit because the other friend I was with was like up and down doing the most, right? Even though I had met people there, it was just like I felt like Alessia Cara for a minute. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I here with all these people that I don't know? And I'm like, what's going on? I was like, I will say, I think at Joburg Pride, I overstayed my welcome. I think I should have, like, when my friend left, I should have also been like, you know what? It's been cute. I'm leaving too. So that's when the loneliness kind of hit. And I mean, even yesterday, right? When I went to Durban Pride by myself, I was feeling quite alone. But I mean, I did notice that there were other people who were walking by themselves during the march, right? And you know, after I got out of my head, I did socialize and mingle with some people. But it just got me thinking, and I've been thinking about this for a while about how if you're a queer person who's not necessarily into partying and grooving, it's kind of can be difficult to make friends. And especially I mean like make friends like since moving here to Durban, right? I've been in here for 6 months, right? Um, like now I've made a couple of friends, but it's quite difficult to meet other queer people. Especially, it's like I'm scared to go to the club by myself because, ciao. And that's the thing. Even the experience that I've had, like getting thrown out of a club, right? I think that definitely has made me a lot more reserved about going out, and even in terms of how I express myself now. I did notice that I'm no longer um being as openly queer in my, or let me say subversive of gender norms. But I thought, what, maybe it's just changing patterns, or just like a change in my preferences. But then like yesterday during the march, because I mentioned it in my head, I'm like, wait, doesn't this have something to do with that incident? Like, even though I mean, after both incidences, I did get counseling. I did want to talk about. I did speak to professional, and there were follow ups. It seemed like what, I'm fine. I'm great. I'm functioning. But I guess that's the thing about trauma is that it's not clear cut. It's not linear. Things pop up, and I think now that I'm aware of that, I know, okay, this is something I'm gonna have to work on because I mean, it's one thing don't to express yourself well because that's what you feel comfortable with, but it's another to deny yourself because of fear, right? And just looking at there were so many beautiful people at both Pride events, but yesterday obviously is more fresh in my mind. There was just people just probably was just envious. And I'm kind of getting emotional right now. I don't know if you guys can hear my voice is getting a little shaky. But I was envious to see people just being themselves, just expressing themselves how they want to. And it's like, there's this fear that's holding me back. But we're gonna do the work. We're gonna do the work, and I'm just gonna share with you guys some of the things that I did for Pride Month this year to celebrate and commemorate. So first, I kicked it off with a Queerness Everyday Challenge, was brought to you by Queer Theology. If you guys have been here with me for, I've mentioned Queer Theology a lot. Like, they've really helped me on my journey, not only in terms of like my faith and spirituality, but even like my queerness. And so it was an everyday challenge with different prompts and tasks, and one of the tasks was like to have like a talisman, like something that you wear to be like visibly queer or to celebrate queer, or even if something that just only represents queerness. So I had like a little pin that has like a pride flag that I started wearing every day to work. And at first people didn't say anything. And then, I remember I had someone who noticed. I was like, "Oh, hey, I didn't notice your pin. Like, sorry, I never asked you what are your pronouns. I hope I haven't offended you," anything like that. And that was the moment I was like, "Oh, okay." It's just, you know, people who you, I guess I mean, not that I thought this person was homophobic, but like people who you never would have thought are clued in, or actually, clued in and want to, you know, be inclusive. It's kind of like how I think I've mentioned before how, when a lot of people, when they ask about someone's whether they're queer or not, it's usually not from a good place. It's not from a place of curiosity. It's not from a place of genuine interest. Usually, it's just from very malicious, weird place. Like, it's because it's always like, okay, what would you do with that information, right? If you want to know whether someone's queer because you just want to be in on the gossip, or because you want to bombard them with ridiculous questions, just leave them alone. But if you want to know so that you can be a safe space for queer people, power to you. By all means, I highly encourage that. And also, I've been trying to, now just to consciously, and even like I feel like I do support a lot of queer artists in terms of like music, books, and movies. But I took Pride Month as a chance to just be a bit more intentional and actively seek out, queer musicians to listen to. Like, there's some of my favorite queer artists that I realized like they released albums like 2 to 3 years ago, which I still haven't listened to. I'm like, let's listen to these albums now. Let's listen to these albums now. Let us, also just plug in. Um, yeah, that's just some of the things I did. And now I just want to give you guys a little bit of. I feel like I can't close this episode off without giving you guys a little bit of a mini life update, since it's been like 2 years since we spoke. So right now I am qualified medical doctor. Last time I was on this mic, I was still a medical student. I've been working for 6 months now. What a journey it's been. I think definitely I'll make another episode where I talk a little bit more about what the journey's been like so far. In terms of love life, still single, but still dealing with relationship problems, which you guys will find out about in future episodes. And yeah, I think those are just like the major events in my life. Obviously, life, there's always something happening. We're always going through it somewhere, somehow. But now you're probably wondering, like, what is in store for the future? So, this episode might have been a train wreck, might have been a mess all over the place, but I just feel like I just had to get it out as it is, because I feel like if I can actually show you, like, on my notes, there are so many episodes I did, like, I've been meaning to try to get back into making podcasts and stuff, but it was like number one, overthinking it, trying to make it perfect. I recently saw a post, I think it was a TikTok or an Instagram reel, where the person's like, thinking about doing the thing is not doing the thing. Planning to do the thing is not doing the thing. Talking about doing the thing is not doing the thing. Like, you need to actually do the thing. Excuse me, to do the thing. And I feel like I've been meaning to do, like, to get back into the podcast. But I was like, you know what? Let me just jump right back in. Because literally, even how I got into YouTube videos, like, I just started making videos. And then I got better at it as I was doing. And I feel like because it's been so long since I've done a podcast episode, I need to relearn this skill. I need to get into it, find my groove again. Plus, also, I mean, I'm a different person than I am now than I was back then. So, it's gonna be quite interesting to see which direction the podcast is gonna go. This time around. Also, like I'm planning also just to revisit some topics I've already discussed and see, like kind of like how we did rediscussing pride, um, and just looking back and say, okay, how are things similar? How have things changed? And where am I at right now? So future plans, planning to hopefully continue this podcast thing. Like for now, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. I told myself I can at least do one podcast episode a month, right? Ideally two, and then as I figure out a new routine, how can I incorporate this into my life, hopefully then I can start releasing weekly episodes. I also want to get back on my YouTube channel. The reason why I'm starting with the podcast only is because trying to make a YouTube video has the additional admin of like the visual component, and like I tried setting up a camera and everything. I was like, this is not looking good, and it's like, you know what? I don't want to overthink it. I like, as much as I do want to have grace for myself. That not everything I put out has to be perfect, but also I don't want to put out something that's gonna make me feel insecure or something that I feel like, okay, that was just trash. So hopefully within the next month, I'll also be able to figure out how to incorporate YouTube into it and what kind of content exactly I want to make for YouTube, whether we're gonna do just podcasts on YouTube and also like the audio version, or also whether on YouTube there'll be other videos that I make. But like, I'm getting ahead of myself. I just want to say thank you so much if you stuck around until this point. Please tell everyone that Simply Special's back. Okay, share the podcast with people. Tell them to start subscribing to the YouTube channel. Like, tell them content is coming soon, coming soon. I feel like I feel like like if you're into like stan culture, like everyone has had a point where like their favorite artist is like new music coming soon, and you don't know when soon is. Like sometimes it can be 2 months or it can be 3 years depending on who you stan. But like I feel like that's how I feel like content is coming soon. Okay, tell the girlies that Simply Spissa is coming. So secure your wig, sis. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I enjoyed this. I actually had fun making this episode. Like I'm suddenly remembering how much I love this, and I'm so looking forward to making future more episodes with you guys. So until then, I love you so much. Bye.